Well, it's 9:15. I guess we'll go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'm Matthew York with the Hydraulics Unit, and I will be moderating for this session. Welcome to Session 2 of Day 2 of the Pre-Construction Workshop. As a reminder, please continue to comply with NC State's face covering policy. Now, please join me in welcoming Boyd Tharrington to the podium.
Good morning, everybody. Again, like he said, I'm Boyd Tharrington. I'm the state construction engineer with the DOT construction unit. Been there for a couple of years now. Previously, worked in Division 5 for the first 20 years of my career as resident, assistant resident, but also as division construction engineer for, I think it was about 4 years. It kind of flew by really fast, that 4 years did, but so that's a little bit about my background. Today, my presentation is really focused on, obviously, construction topics that tie back to the pre-construction world. So a few of the things I'll be talking about is the project delivery network, which I really hope everybody in here probably by now is very familiar with, has seen it, may have projects they're working on utilizing the project delivery network, and really talking about how that ties to construction and really the parts of the PDN, the activities that have construction touch points and how important those are. Going to talk a little bit about our construction unit. The value management office is under the construction unit or within the construction unit. We've got some programs we'd like to share. I'd like to share post-construction assessments that we're doing, constructability reviews, and other services that the value management office offers. I'm also going to talk briefly about really post-design consultant services that can be scoped into our design contracts and really how that ties into the construction side and what we see as the benefits of having that scope of work in those contracts. I'm going to mention our lunch and learns that we've got scheduled to go on throughout this year, and also going to talk, probably really importantly, about some of the things that I'm working with, and we've got some AGC work groups that have been formed to address some topics, and some of those topics definitely tie back to the pre-construction side. So with that, let me get started. Again, our first topic is going to be the PDN and thinking about construction integration. How is that construction input kind of woven into the project delivery network? Assuming that colorful picture there is something, again, that most folks are familiar with. I know when I first saw it, I was really impressed, and it just a lot of really smart people worked really hard on that PDN. And one thing, I wasn't part of the development of the PDN, but there was a construction team, an IPD construction team that was formed, and really with the understanding or the idea of bridging the gap between design and construction was really something that was very important to the folks involved in developing the PDN, and really coordinating with construction early and coordinating with construction often throughout this process. So talking, thinking about construction input and where it lies within the PDN. If you go within various activities, I think what you'll find is there's just a lot of places where references are made to coordination with division staff, giving division staff and division construction staff an opportunity to review plans at certain phases, certain trigger points in design where that input is requested. Also, input from the central construction unit, from the area construction engineers, our regional bridge construction engineers. That input is really throughout the PDN within the various activities. There's also some activities that involve the value management office. Wanted to touch on those a little bit. If you go to every stage of development, value management has an activity. And within those value management activities are items like constructability reviews. Thinking about if anybody on the project design team sees a challenge, whether it's a technical challenge or whether it's just, hey, how do we go into this thing and try to identify those constructability items, really encouraging the project managers to utilize the construction reviews or the constructability reviews rather. And those can be formal, those can be informal. It can involve contractors. If we feel like we need to pull in some contractors to look at a specific issue within that project, we can do that. Those are coordinated through the Value Management Office. So, one thing, thinking about the PDN and the benefits, it really enables you to really look down the road. So one thing I would just encourage, if you're a project manager, if you're with a firm, obviously being able to look down the road and anticipate those stages where constructability input is going to come into play, and try to get out in front of it, try to be communicating early and coordinating and trying to get the right people to the table. Now, this is something we've done in the past. I mean, bringing construction folks into the design process is something that's always happened. I think this just really formalizes it, and we want to take advantage of it to the extent we can. And really the idea is, from my perspective, is to end up with a really complete, thorough, constructible set of plans, avoiding project delays, and ultimately avoiding constructability issues that are going to cost money and they're going to cost time. Because really at the heart of it, that's really what, by the time it comes to me, it's a claim, it's an issue. We're talking about money and we're talking about time. All right. Since I mentioned the construction unit and our potential involvement within the delivery network, I wanted to show our organizational chart. We're really, we have, the construction unit has staff all across the state. If you look here, our area construction engineers are located in every division, or a lot of them handle multiple divisions. But those are going to be your points of contact for constructability type issues during project development. Going above the area construction engineers, the east and the west is divided into two assistants. Brian Skeens is here. Wiley Jones is probably here somewhere. Those folks are the assistant state construction engineers. Wiley in the east, Brian Skeens in the west. On the structure side, we've got an eastern region structures engineer, Aaron Earwood. And right now our western region bridge construction engineer position is vacant. We're hoping to get that filled as soon as we can, because Aaron right now is really covering a lot of the whole state. And if you're looking for this map or this directory, it is located at the construction project support website under construction resources, and there's a link there for engineering maps if you want to see this. So I mentioned post-design consultant support. So this is something I say it's relatively new. I don't know exactly when we started putting that scope out there and including it in our contracts. But in the past, the consultant's role really ended when the design was complete, and when we went into construction, if we encountered issues on a consultant design set of plans, oftentimes, I know from my experience, we're picking up the phone, we're calling DOT staff in hydro or structures, and we're asking those questions and really leaning on our own staff for technical support. I think this tool here is really going to be valuable on the construction side, because it's going to enable us to maintain that relationship with the engineer of record and really rely on them if we have problems on the project. Thinking about field conditions changing, thinking about just you name it, whatever comes up, being able to lean on them as a technical resource is important. Even the idea of getting them to a pre-construction conference, letting them come in on certain, maybe not all projects obviously, but certain projects, I could see that being a value to have them at the table to answer questions, to point out some things that would be of interest to the contractor and to the contract administration staff. Thinking about plan revisions, that's one thing. If you talk to the AGC, question we get all the time is, DOT still doing plan revisions? When are y'all doing them? We've got a plan revision coming out on this project, and it seemed to take a long time to get it. Crews are held up. We've got delays on the project. This is something I think is really gonna. I think it's gonna help that. I think having that firm with the staff standing ready to respond in the event that we need a plan revision is going to be critical to maintaining progress on the projects. And again, time is money. When we think about time, we think about controlling operations. When we think about time, it's not just time; it's money. So just very briefly, the stage 5 activities, there is no So I guess official stage 5, I guess those stage 5 activities are kind of within the disciplines. Not officially yet, but Chris just said it's coming. But there they are. It really covers all disciplines that could be involved in the construction process. I want to highlight some lunch and learn events that our Value Management Office is going to be conducting over the next year. And I really wanted to highlight one of them in particular. On February 22nd, there is a construction revision lunch and learn, which we think would be really valuable for PMs, for contract administrators and others to attend that and really learn about the construction revision process, how it should work, and just a good opportunity to get up to speed on that. There's a barcode there. I don't know if you could actually scan that, but if you go to, if you scan it, it will take you to a place where you can sign up to receive alerts and updates on upcoming lunch and learn events, of which there are multiple. We've got topics that have been confirmed, dates that have been confirmed that are out there. We would encourage everybody to attend those if you're looking for some educational opportunities. Post-construction assessments. These are something we started beginning of last year, and really they were driven by the need to really have a feedback loop to where, we don't just complete projects and then we move on to the next one. It's really an opportunity to reflect back on the successes, the challenges we faced on these projects, and bring the right people to the table to attend these assessments, these workshops. We've done 16 of them across the state. We tried to select projects across the state. We tried to pick projects in every division. I don't think we were successful in doing that, but most of our divisions are covered in a variety of projects. And again, these assessments were all done virtually. We found that format to be really good. For number one, is a lot of people were able to attend. I mean, the consultant staff, DOT disciplines, contractors, maintenance folks, the prime contractors on the projects were able to attend these and really, walk through the project start to finish and cover a lot of ground very quickly. Prior to these meetings, we made sure everybody uploaded their relevant documents, pictures, videos. If they had topics or things that they felt were, of value to a post-construction assessment, we gathered all that information ahead of time and were able to go in there and have really productive meetings. There's just an example of the website and some of the documentation we were able to go into these meetings with. So what really came out of that? Again, 330 unique individuals participated in the assessments last year, and we had about 150 lessons learned, is what we're calling them. That we were able to take those lessons learned and enter them into our CLEAR portal or CLEAR database as being a kind of repository where all these lessons learned can be housed, and then on future projects, and the PDN alludes back to the CLEAR system. The hope is that on future projects, you're encountering an issue, design issue, you go into the CLEAR database, and you're able to search out some key terms, you're able to pull out some information that can maybe help or be applied on future projects is really the idea. So we're excited about that. We think it's been successful. We're going to continue those into this year. We're currently scheduling them, identifying projects. If anybody has a project you want to potentially do an assessment on, please communicate with the Value Management Office on that. I mentioned the Constructability Review Program. Since I've already kind of talked about it, I won't go into a lot of detail, but again, the PDN, under the Value Management Office activities, really directs or kind of informs the project manager that, hey, these things are available. They can be triggered by anybody on the project team who thinks there's a need to do one of these. And again, they can be formal, they can be informal, they can involve the contractor, they cannot. But we would encourage folks to utilize these. It's a great opportunity to have some conversation about challenges on the project. Again, a formal will need to be coordinated by the Value Management Office. Taking up some of Kristen's time here. I don't know if I'm good or bad. But very briefly, I want to talk about some Carolina AGC NCDOT work groups that have been formed, some of the things we've been talking about in those work groups. Utilities has been a very hot topic on the minds of the AGC members, particularly dealing with projects where we've got utility relocation work that's happening during the construction project. Obviously, design build, that's always the case for the most part, but just really trying to identify some creative outside the box ways to look at utility relocations, things maybe we haven't done in the past. Some of the ideas were the idea of incorporating dry utility work into a construction contract. That's something we don't do. Other states do it or have done it. So things like excuse me. So, on the design build side, having the design build team perform some design work on behalf of a utility owner in order to gain control of that process and really keep the schedule moving. So that's just some of the things. Some of these ideas we talked about really have been passed along to the utilities unit. Byron and his team have an effort underway to look at their utility processes. And they're taking some of these ideas and they're going out to the utility companies and they're having some conversations and trying to see where we can get as far as implementing some of these ideas. Another work group we have with AGC is dealing with rail coordination. This was actually prompted by CSX, but it involved AGC and DOT staff in these meetings with the idea of really trying to minimize flagging needs on projects, looking at ideas for reducing flagging. Obviously, the AGC is interested in that because flagging and rail coordination is a very hot topic. Sometimes flagger availability can be a problem. So really thinking about ways to minimize impacts. And some of the ideas that came out of that, we're just thinking about tying it back to design. As we're looking at design, do we adjust a span length to stay out of the railroad right away? What can we do to eliminate the need for shoring within the railroad right away? These types of things that really can potentially trigger more flagging. Trying to phase the work, contractors trying to phase work such that you're in the railroad right away, a single time for a kind of a known duration. We're not moving in, moving out multiple times. Railroad doesn't like that because they've got to schedule and bring flaggers in and out of a project. Another committee we had was dealing with noise wall issues on the design build side. Won't get into too much detail there, but in design build projects in the past, we have had some issues where we try to put some quantities in the RFP of what we anticipate noise walls to be, and we've had some standard pricing where if we exceed some of those quantities, we pay a fixed price or a set price in the RFP for exceeding those quantities. Some of the feedback we got from AGC was that, the pricing we had in there was not adequate to cover, walls and cuts versus walls and fills. There's some price differences happening. So our solution and what we're moving forward with is on some future design build contracts, will be to set an RFP target for what we anticipate the noise wall quantities on the project to be. Define that by walls and cut, walls and fill, and then we're going to put some pricing in there for if we go over that quantity, we're going to have some pricing in there for cuts and fills. And lastly, I want to talk about some AGC concerns. Probably the biggest thing we hear about from AGC, or at least the phone calls I get, is dealing with consistency. It's one thing we hear very often is the AGC would like to see consistency across all 14 divisions, centrally let projects, division-let projects. And one piece of that is dealing with contract times. And we've had some concerns raised regarding, hey, we got this project in this division that gave us this many days. This division gave us this many days. Is everybody using the same methodology, the same production rates, the same contract time procedures to to come up with durations for construction. That's one thing we wanted to mention today was just, following the division-led guidance, following our contract time procedures, and really shooting for consistency when we put durations out there in these contracts. Another hot topic is material shortages, lead times on materials. These are things we have to consider when we're setting contract times, and I'll use things like, box beams or cord slabs. These things have very long lead times right now. It seems like every day we're getting phone calls about different materials and the shortages and the lead time issues, water line, sewer line, a little bit of everything. These are things to think about when you're setting contract times. Contract standards and development, I see Ken Kennedy out there. But those folks are really kind of keeping their finger on the pulse of where some of these material issues are. So I would suggest coordinating with them if you've got questions about material lead times. And then also special provisions. The last thing I'm going to mention dealing with special provisions is the industry would like to see and would like to have the opportunity to review new special provisions before they appear in a contract. If a division or if we come up with something new that they haven't seen before, I can assure you my phone will definitely ring. Usually does. But something to think about if you have a unique project and there's some provisions in there that may need to be have some further discussion, whether it's with AGC or whether it's with CAPA or other groups. Please reach out to Ron Davenport and his team, reach out to the construction unit, and we'll make sure that coordination happens. That's all I've got, folks. I think I saved Kristen enough time, I hope, but thank you for your time.
I'll see if I can maybe adjust this. Can everyone hear me okay? We'll pull up a presentation. There we go. I'm not going to hold it against him for taking up a little extra time, but it is exciting when maintenance can be at the forefront and in the conversation with you all. I'm passionate about maintenance. I'm the director of highway operations, currently acting in that role, and my history has been with Division 4, so a lot of familiar faces out there. My background is a little blend of maintenance and construction, so most of my career I've spent involved in maintenance from one aspect or another, supporting the department in different roles. So I'm excited to be here to kind of, share some things we're doing on the maintenance side with you all, but also just really be a plug for our maintenance guys in the field that carry a lot of knowledge and have a lot of experience. Once you guys design and then Boyd and the construction team build, it's passed on to maintenance. And then, our guys are the ones that may not always get looped all the way back full circle to the design team as far as, issues they may see or things that we have to take our funding to support. Or I think it's just great that we get to the table and, early, kind of like Boyd said, maintenance doesn't want to attend every pre-construction meeting. They don't want to be, involved in all the details. But if there are hot spots or issues that pop up, our guys they're very knowledgeable and are, always willing to assist. A good example is, if there's a drainage issue on a design project, there's maintenance engineers that have probably visited that site hundreds of times maybe. So getting their insight, and a lot of them have been around for a really long time, so they have that, historical knowledge of things. So I do want to just, I'm going to try to stick to my slideshow to a certain degree, but I welcome a lot of questions, and we're always looking for ideas of how we can better connect or provide that loop. Obviously, as you see here with planning and design, construction, then it comes to maintenance operations. And at the end of the day, we want to assess what's out there on our roadways and monitor the designs that we're putting on the ground to see, how well are we doing with it? What's the life cycle of it? How are we how are we spending our money to make sure we maintain it? So the big plug, I know you all are probably very familiar with Atlas and interact with that tool a lot. And so on the maintenance side of the house, we kind of coined another effort called Artemis. And with that, we're challenging our maintenance staff to do route-based, collect route-based data. So when they're going to a particular route and performing, pothole patches, or they're fixing guardrail, or any of these, maintenance activities, that we're actually capturing to the route level where all of these activities are occurring. With that, it's a big lift, though. I mean, our maintenance guys are they're not always your most tech savvy people, so we're pushing tools down to them and asking a little bit different, asking them to step out of their wheelhouse, I guess. You guys are probably more familiar with using computers and programming and that sort of thing. So it's a big lift for our department to work towards this with our field guys. But on the front end, we're having to really adjust some policies and processes that are kind of a little outdated within our department, and looking at our systems. So from SAP, which is our financial system, to Agile Assets is where we keep most of our maintenance data. But we're also looking on the contract resurfacing side, a lot of the designs and the plans that come in, how we can kind of skip the manual process of pulling data and make it more automated. So transport and some of the other systems that you all use, how we can link those better with our maintenance systems as well. Obviously, the user experience is very important to us, because if it's not easy to use, people are not going to use it, and the data's not going to be great. So we're wanting to make it very seamless on that aspect. And then reporting and analytics, that's the part that comes on the back end, but we're obviously most excited about, because then that's when we can start sharing information, from on the planning and design side. If we, are picking up, where there's cross-line pipes that we're having to constantly go unclog, or connecting with hydraulics on conditions of pipes. So that's kind of the big picture, and obviously Artemis stands for Advancing Our Transportation Ecosystem Through Maintenance Intelligent Solutions. So just putting that ping in. The vision of it is to be connected, automated, transparent, and compelling. So obviously the connected part, we're wanting, the life cycle of a project. Again, it's designed, it's constructed, and then it's maintained for years to come. And so we really want to make the linkages between all of the different units where it makes sense. This gets back to that mobile collection. So we're all very intimate with maps and mapping and layering on things. So a big vision for the department is to not just have Atlas that kind of sits in this window and on this platform of mapping, and then, we have our safety projects, or our STIP that we, map on another platform, and then figure out a way to have complete continuity, I guess, with our mapping and what resources we provide to our stakeholders, and obviously to people that do our design work, our partners in industry, our legislative members, that we're able to tell that story, and one, we're making better business decisions. So if there are hot spots with guardrail issues or accidents or that sort of thing on a safety aspect, that we're taking that information and making good decisions with it as far as new projects or where we make changes to design. Just another ping of things that we've already done and are continuing to do is our asset inventory collection. So right now we currently have drop inlets, maintenance pipes, non-MBIS pipes, noise walls, and retaining walls. These are all on the Go and See platform, and they've been inventoried and then assessed for condition. So on the design side, if you're going into a section of roadway and going to make improvements, we have the condition of the pipes assessed, and that will be on a 5-year rotating cycle. So 20% each year will be reassessed so that we keep that data set active. So this is just kind of in short, ways that pre-construction can help maintenance, and then hopefully some ways that maintenance can assist pre-construction. So obviously the as-built plans are important to us because as things change in the field, we don't always have boots on the ground at the time to make those updates to the inventory. So obviously ways for us to better incorporate what's being built so that our guys know what they're about to start maintaining, I guess. Locations of slides, that's obviously something on the geotech side that's important for us as maintaining the highways and keeping things safe. Hydraulic data, that's always important to our maintenance guys, as obviously we're going to continue to have storms, and it helps them respond. Permits as well, that's also another, and again, having a repository to access this data is important. And again, how maintenance, what would be useful for pre-construction, we would hope would be our maintenance hotspot. So as we are in the field and we see these, areas where there's a lot of runoff road issues and they're repairing shoulders or doing things like that, that this data can start circulating back to you all to incorporate in design. Our asset inventory, the condition, and then again, the local knowledge. So just be in touch with your divisions, get the maintenance engineers involved in the conversations, just let them have a seat at the table, and hopefully we can start doing some full circle design, construct, and maintain. So I think I probably went a lot faster than you. I think I'll turn it over to Matt if there are any questions.
All right. We will now take questions. Please just raise your hand and I'll bring you the microphone for recording this session. Here you go.
I'm not putting you all on the spot, but I kind of am. You all know me. I'm a self-proclaimed pre-construction guy with very limited construction background and zero maintenance background, except for around my house. If you all, sorry, I'm trying to look at you both here. If you all, just duck down, Matt. No, I'm just teasing. It's a great team. If you all were to, and I won't put you on the spot, but I think that there would be a lot of value if your different teams had things where, like, dadgummit, if the designers would just do this on that, it would make our lives so much easier. I think, I think that a lot of the designers in here would appreciate examples of where this was designed this way and it resulted with X issue on the construction side or X issue on the maintenance side. I think there'd be a lot of value in that. And I think that designers would be eager to see what those may be. I don't know if you have a couple off the top of your head that keep you awake at night.
Yeah, I don't know if any that keep me awake at night, but I can just, one thing, I'm going to pick on traffic control a little bit, and just, the coordination between the way you're managing traffic during the project and, say, a utility construction piece. We've seen issues where the phasing or the way we're shifting or handling traffic through the work zone just didn't line up with the utility construction plans. You've got a road you're supposed to maintain, you've got a 20-foot cut for a gravity sewer, and you can't close the road. Things like that, or things, situations where you're building a temporary structure, and the temporary structure alignment, it results to where the temporary structure is too close to where you're building the permanent structure, and there wasn't enough space there to do the work on the new bridge. So we had to back up, stop work, issue a plan revision. So that's a couple of examples, but it's really the coordination between, and I think PDN is going to help that. Is really the coordination between those silos of various designs that happen. Road control plans, utility by others, all these things that are coming in at the end of the project, aligning those things together and making sure there's not conflicts with that is a big one. That's a couple of examples, but.
So I have one question for Boyd and one for Kristen. So Boyd, with the post-construction assessments, how do you get contractors and engineers to open up and maybe admit their own lessons learned or their own mistakes? Are there any liability protections in these meetings and things like that? And, instead of it being a finger pointing session about, well, you should have done this better, how can you get people to open up and admit their own, potential mistakes and lessons learned? And for Kristen, I have a question about what type of deterioration modeling you might be utilizing to predict when you're going to be replacing your assets. So, thanks.
I think the first part of your question, I think it starts with picking the right project for the assessment. If we've got a project the work's been completed, but it's tangled up with a lot of issues, problems, claims, we're not going to do a post-construction assessment on that, most likely, unless issues have been resolved. So as far as liability and thinking about it from that standpoint, we're not going to put ourselves in that situation. So far, I think what we've seen, and I don't know if folks in this room have participated, I think there's just been a willingness to openly talk about the issues. I mean, we haven't seen folks that are holding back. I mean, if there was a problem out there, we're talking about it, and I think folks are willing to say, hey, this is an opportunity to learn from the mistake that we made, or it may not even be a mistake. It may just be something that, hey, we didn't think of that. It's nobody's fault. But there's been a willingness to talk about those things and have some good open conversations. But I do understand your question. I think it could potentially be a concern, but we try to put everybody's mind at ease going into the meeting. That's not what this is about. This is about learning from our mistakes, learning from our successes. That's another part of it, and then being able to document that and learn from it.
And for my question, one, I appreciate the question. Two, it's a challenging one to answer because I think on pavements we have a pretty robust, system as far as analyzing and taking, the distresses and determining best practices of what treatment to place at what time. But with all other assets, from our maintenance pipes to bridges, really taking a look at, and a lot of that has changed, the design and the types of bridges we're building now, so determining what, at what point along the life of that asset do we need to be doing, certain maintenance activities, right? So that, we're extending the life of the asset to the greatest potential, right? And a lot of that does determine, are we sealing cracks? Are we doing all the things along the way to make sure we are preserving, because the lifespan of a bridge, I think, it's 100 years, right? I mean, that's well surpasses most of us living in this room. So it's like, again, I think we have to start kind of through Artemis and rely on the data and the stuff to start telling us, how are we doing? Are the bridges we're designing and building, do they really start to last that 100 years? There's probably, I welcome it, if anyone in the room or continues to have any desire to participate or help us with this, because we, again, it's something that we want to continue to build upon that data set and make good decisions with it. But I appreciate the question, and it's a challenging one for sure. And again, I'll go back to the plug of funding, right? There's never enough money to do all the right treatments to the assets. So we do the best we can, and then obviously it comes up to replacement and being able to fund that as well.
Thank you. So, Boyd, looking back at your presentation, you talked about lunch and learns, and like you mentioned, construction revisions. From the roadway design unit, it's great to see that the construction folks are looking at having those opportunities, and I'd like to, reach out to you, or if you can provide a contact for someone that we can register people, we can sign up for these lunch and learns, and help participate in them. As engineers, as project managers, project delivery is one of our main focus, along with schedule. And with construction revisions, we try and get those revisions back out to the contractor quickly. And one of the things that we do is take a big sigh of relief once that's out the door and we think it's done. Well, we have records retention after the process. So that's where I see a lot of things being missed, is getting those revised plans back into our database for future knowledge for maintenance. And So we've got a lot of stake in participating in things like your lunch and learns. It'd be great to be part of that.
So, good points, David, and it's good to see you again. David worked in Division 5 with us many years ago, a long time. But anyway, your first question was who to reach out to for the Lunch and Learns. I would probably start with the website, the Clear website, and sign up to be notified. I would say reach out to, through the website, through registering, you should get an email alert, I think would allow you to register for that session. I'm not 100% sure, but I would say to be definitely sure, talk to Allison Tamer with the Value Management Office. I would reach out to her. She'd be able to make sure that sign-up process is done. But we definitely would encourage you guys, as many folks as possible, to participate. I think it would be a good conversation and a good opportunity to learn. So.
Anyone else? Well, it's for the recording.
I don't know if I want to go on record. For those of you who don't know, I would like to point out too that Artemis is a Greek goddess, daughter of Zeus, and she's the protector, and she has perfect aim with the bow. So it was intentional to call this program Artemis, and we're doing a lot of work with it, and we really want the design decisions to roll back with maintenance in mind. So, and I know Open Roads is leaning in that direction. So when you make a design decision, you can tell if you're adding more pipe, that's going to mean more maintenance. So you can keep those quantities going, and we just ask for people that deal with it on a day-to-day basis, if you could help us and get feedback, please get back with Kristen and let us know. On the Clear side, where we'd like to go, instead of it being a resource where you go if you have a question, I'd really like to see it go to, if you're doing this type of design, you go there and say, I'm doing this type of design, and then it comes and gives you all those lessons learned and all those things where we've made those mistakes, and kind of roll it into something more proactive than having to go search it out and look for it. Those are the comments I have.
I'll put a ping in for Ronnie kind of opening the floor with his comment on maintenance. A vision, especially, for the continuation of the department, and we're still going to build roads, and our capital program is going to continue to move forward. But, how we really take and express to our stakeholders, whether it's our legislature or, municipalities, RPOs, MPOs, that, building this road or widening this road or adding this capacity is great for mobility, and it's great for, freight and all these other aspects. But being able to loop back and get their understanding of, when we widen this road from 4 lanes to 6 lanes, here's the amount of maintenance capacity you're going to add to the department. And, I don't think we have a real good correlation right now with, how maintenance is funded and what we're building. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there.
Thank you, Matt. I just want to put a plug in for Clear. It's open for everybody. It's open for our industry partners. It's open for our staff. Ideas, issues, concerns, lessons learned. I hope everybody knows that it's open for everybody. It's one of the department's way of really trying to truly solicit everybody's ideas and thoughts and recommendations. And those submittals go to a technical group, and they get reviewed and they get vetted, and a lot of those ideas are going to go right back into our process, our policy, our guidance materials. So I hope everybody understands the enormous opportunity that you have in helping make what we do at the department a lot more efficient and tapping into the many, many intelligent people that are in our industry. So I wanted to put a plug in for Clear there.
Thank you, Chris. Are there any other questions? All right.
Thank you, Kristen. I wanted to ask about, I work in long-range planning, and so we work with communities, MPOs, RPOs, and towns. And I wanted to get you to comment on the vision about this deteriorating infrastructure right underneath the ground that connects some of these towns, water and sewer and other things like that. They're very concerned about that. And some of these, we have 550 towns in the state of North Carolina. A lot of them are small towns. And they're really concerned about even being solvent, right, the next year. How are they going to deal with that? Can you comment on that?
I can say that it is something our department is aware of too, just from the interaction with municipalities. And part of our, our permitting is requiring to make sure that we're assessing the systems. Because before we can, make a plan to assist with them, we need to know, what condition they're in and what the solution is. So it's definitely on the forefront of some conversations. Do we have an immediate fix or solution? No. And again, I'll kind of revert back to the funding issue, right? A lot of these systems, they're extremely old. They've been in place for a long time. And so maintaining them and what the proper maintenance for them is a challenge and will continue to be. But I do appreciate the question, and I think it's something that is going to continue to surface. It's not going away.
Well, we still have 15 more minutes till the end of the session. If anyone has any other questions.
Thanks, Matt. So I just wanted to put a plug in for Kristen, your group, and what they're doing in the asset management, because the maintenance pipes and the non-MDS pipes, it's helping us just get ahead of the curve with resilience and modeling. And so we're able to look at now, how we can, what the vulnerability is of those systems. And by having that data, we can incorporate into the model. So North Carolina is one of the most data-rich states when we start talking about the LiDAR data, plus all the asset management you guys are doing. So I am so thankful that you guys are putting that work in. And then the partnership that's going on between the different units on that area is really important. So I think we'll really see the benefit and value of that work. And I hope we continue it too, because it's really valuable on the hydraulic side. So, and for the department, asset management, TAMP, all those things, Bridge Watch, those things we're working on to get a better understanding of vulnerability. So thank you for that.
Hey, Boyd, you mentioned scoping construction phase services when needed. Do you have anything more specific to add to that? Should we, at a minimum, include pre-construction attendance? Does the size of the project have an impact on when we should be scoping that?
I kind of missed the first piece of your question about...
Yeah, the construction phase services for your design team. Scoping that as a task and adding that to their work being available during construction.
Oh, you're talking about the post-design?
Yeah, post-design, yeah.
I think it's probably up for some discussion. I think maybe some communication between the PM and the construction staff over projects that we're likely to encounter challenges. I think you kind of know going into a project if you got some potential field conditions you think you may be encountering. You've got some complex MOT where the contractor may come in and say, hey, we've got this new idea, we've got this new thing we want to try. We need somebody to bounce those ideas off of. So I think it's going to be MOT related. If you've got any type of unique design, unique structure, something that's not routine. I mean, a cord slab bridge on a secondary road, I don't need that. But if you've got a complex structure down at the coast, yes, you're going to need that. So I think just the complexity of the project, the nature of the project, some of the issues that you can anticipate you may encounter would drive that.
And Boyd, if I can add, the scope's already out there. It's cost plus, so we need it, it's there. We don't need it, no harm, no foul. But it really would come down to the project manager and the construction staff and identifying that risk. But it should be pretty easy to put in place. All the mechanisms are there.
Any other takers? All right.
He doesn't get two questions, just one.
Are they allowed to? Okay, okay.
All right, I just thought of something. So, in pre-construction, our connection to the divisions or your division construction engineer and other division staff, project managers. During construction, kind of that forgotten soul is the resident engineer. They make a lot of decisions during construction. A lot of field adjustments go through, they go back to the resident engineer. Do you see an opportunity for our technical folks, our design engineers, having more of a connection to the resident engineers during construction, helping out?
I think during pre-construction and construction, going back to pre-construction, one thing I tried to do in my time in Division 5 was, typically the DCEs have been the one going to the field inspection meetings and really handling a lot of that load when it comes to the pre-construction side, trying to bring the resident engineers in a little bit earlier, having them be part of the pre-construction process, attending the field inspection meetings, these constructability reviews, really bringing them in at that point is really valuable. I don't know what all the divisions do. Some may already be doing that. Some DCs may not. But as far as once the project's under construction, you're kind of asking how do we, how does your team kind of communicate with the resident, or is there? Be a resource for the right. I think if you're not hearing from them, that may be a good thing. Because usually when I'm picking up the phone and calling somebody in design, it's because we've got a problem. So maybe that's a good thing. But, I don't know. I would just encourage the divisions, if they do encounter an issue, going back to that plan revision conversation, when is something just changed out in the field versus when do we need to sit down and look at shifting an alignment or doing something different with a typical section or things of that nature, anything. I think the way our process is going to move forward is really they're going to work through the project manager is really, I think, the right thing to do if they need to re-engage with design. So really the right step would be to work through the project manager, but I don't see anything wrong with them going straight to roadway as well.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah. Yeah. And if anybody in roadway design wants to go out and visit a project, go tour a project during certain critical phases or times, we do that with various groups. We've done it with folks and structures. We've done it with different folks. So there's an opportunity to maybe tour some projects, go see some work taking place out in the field. I know, Chris, you've talked about that. Yeah. So reach out to me, and we can certainly do something like that as well.
Boyd and Kristen, I'm wondering if your areas are always correlated with each other. In other words, when construction is more difficult, is maintenance always more difficult? Or are there times when construction is easy but maintenance is difficult? See what I'm getting at?
So correlating the complexity or the difficulty in construction, does that necessarily mean a project that is more challenging to maintain?
Maintain as well. Yep. So those always go together.
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if they always do. Got any thoughts on that?
Have different projects that kind of run through your brain, right? If you're talking about a bridge project that is an innovative new type of design, or it may lead to complexity on the bridge side as far as we have to adjust, how do we maintain it? What are the, again, we talked about the deterioration earlier. There may be aspects of that bridge that are going to deteriorate. We're having to reassess, I guess, how we perform maintenance on certain things as far as, I can say, spending more money on construction to build it beefier, or, as far as that side. Obviously, some of that can kind of sprinkle down to maintenance. If we kind of, shallow on the pavement design, or if we take some shortcuts or things on the construction side to lessen the burden of that cost, we're probably just pushing it further down the line, right? So, that kind of could be one correlation. But again, I think a lot of things that a lot of the projects we're building right now are not necessarily new location. A lot of it's widening existing routes, adding capacity. So, really understanding and digging down and finding out what's out there right now. For instance, if we have concrete under asphalt pavement that we're just going to, resurface over and we're going to add more lanes, but those lanes aren't going to be concrete, then we have potential for a lot of maintenance issues in the future, right? So just, I'm not saying that we can solve all of them, but if we can at least talk about them and maybe, make the best decisions at the time, that it could. Again, we're more siloed with our money, right? Our funding for construction is here. Our funding for pre-construction is here, and our funding for maintenance sits over here, right? But they're all so connected as far as when one suffers, they all suffer, right? So anyway, that's my little correlation, I guess.
Better than what I said. So. Hey. Sure. Well said, Cameron. Thank you.
So I just want to put a plug in. Thank you, Boyd, for highlighting VMO office. If you do have any questions about the lunch and learns in particular, definitely send us an email to clear, CLEAR, at ncdot.gov. And I don't know if you mentioned this or not, but the lunch and learns are, I believe we got approved for an hour of PDHs per session. So even if you have some interest and you just want to listen in and get that PDH, please do. If you want to sign up for that, that is on our website, like Boyd mentioned. But yeah, I just want to thank you so much for highlighting VMO.
All right, we've got one last question, Jennifer.
Thanks, Matt. And this really isn't a question. I just wanted to kind of expand on some of the conversation I've heard about the gap between pre-construction and construction, and talking about incorporating residents and things like that, and then the lunch and learn that's going to talk about construction revisions. From my experience with my team, we've pulled residents in early, and as we work toward that project letting, we're communicating, we're talking about contract time, we're talking about phasing and strategies, and we're working together through all of that in coordination. And so when we get to letting, we've already got that cost plus contract in place. We've already got that team built, and we've already got that communication open so that we hit the ground running with that team. We're not getting to know each other. We've already learned each other, and we're ready to go as soon as somebody in construction hits a problem or there's an issue. So I just wanted to kind of pull that together, because I've kind of heard people say different things, and I think it's important to think about as we integrate and we pull our processes together and we get out of our silos, that we really have that continuity already in place and we're ready to go.
All right, we might have one more question. Time for one more. Anyone else? Go to him first. He raised his hand first.
You'd mentioned as-built, and I know the department has as-built going back to 1930 and right-of-way files on old roll plots, and we store them in probably 3 or 4 different places. Is there any effort to consolidate and maybe put these files going back to the 1930s online so we can access right-of-way data and pipe data and everything else?
I think there's always an effort in our department underway to improve the process with as-builts, and coming from a district office, I know there are files and files and files that exist in our district offices of things just like that, right? So, the amount of paper and effort is tremendous, but we are constantly looking at how we can improve that. as far as, getting documents scanned in and housed in a location that's accessible. It's definitely something that we're taking seriously and always looking at. Again, a lot of that stuff feeds, the life cycle of the asset, the deterioration, determining what's out there. And I know that's probably extremely helpful on the pre-construction side. But again, as you're diving into it, make sure you're always reaching out to your district offices, your resident, your DCEs. They know who to contact to get and pull out as much information as we can, even if it's not, readily available online somewhere.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for all of your questions. Let's give Boyd and Kristen a round of applause.